Welcome back to another week of Spotlight Arena. If you missed last week's episode, we've been summarizing what happened at the Arena of Valor International Championship in Asia, otherwise known as the AIC. This week we're going to check out the final between Vietnam's Game TV and tournament favourites SMG from Taiwan. But before that, let's take a quick look at the show match between SK Gaming and Team Liquid. Day 4 of the AIC opened up in style with a fantastic opening show to introduce the two teams. The scene was set, the players were ready, and it was time to get the games underway. Game 1 between the two teams was explosive. The teams were neck and neck throughout until Geordie found his moment to shine on Zill, tearing through the SK Gaming lineup to win them the first game in this best-of-3 series. Considering SK Gaming had been coined the favourites, Team Liquid was silencing their naysayers with impressive teamfights and coordination. Unfortunately for them, Game 2 was a very different story. SK Gaming managed to down the Darkslayer 8 minutes into the game behind Team Liquid's back, giving them the capability to take their second high ground tower. Severely lacking in golden levels, Team Liquid were forced to take a fight to protect their base that they had no chance of winning. SK Gaming annihilated the defenders, ending the game in under 9 minutes. If you thought Game 1 was close, Game 3 was something else. Team Liquid were ahead for the vast majority of the game, made even more evident by their ace at the 13-minute mark. In most games of Arena of Valor, this would be the end of the game for the losing team, but SK weren't down and out just yet. Sadly for Team Liquid, this was the last fight they'd win in this game, as SK Gaming's light began kicking out some serious damage on Slims. Liquid's green got caught heavily out of position, costing his team one of their frontline tanks and making the final fight a 5 versus 4. With no way to protect all of their carries, SK Gaming jumped on the opportunity to delete most of Team Liquid and left the remaining members powerless to stop them taking the series 2-1. There were a couple of other show matches throughout the day, but we know what you're really here for: the Grand Finals. Both Game TV and SMG looked solid in the first 3 days of the AIC, so all eyes were on Game TV to cause an upset against the tournament favourites. If you've ever watched the MOBA games before, you'll appreciate that sometimes even the best teams don't win every minute of every game. Often what makes a team truly great is their ability to adapt to surprises, predict the enemy's movements, and play to their win conditions. In the first game of the series, SMG did just that. For the most part, Game TV controlled the flow of the game. They didn't lose a single tower and frequently picked off members of SMG, even getting some chip damage onto SMG's base. Everything changed 16 minutes in when Sirenia cleverly hid in a bush to spot Game TV trying to take down the Darkslayer. SMG managed to secure 3 kills, and in denying the Darkslayer from Game TV, gave themselves a few more minutes to prepare for a comeback. Moments later, Genji's Alice got engaged onto by the whole of Game TV. By drawing their aggression, the rest of SMG were free to pick and choose who they wanted to drop, and very cleanly took down 4 members of Game TV. All the defending team could do was stage a patchy defense as SMG barreled towards their base and turned the game completely on its head, taking the first match in this series. With Game 1 being snatched away from them, Game TV turned their attention towards Game 2. They knew they could win, they just had to play the endgame calmly and give SMG less opportunities to come back into it. The game was scarily close, with both teams having identical gold throughout. Despite this, Game TV was still in control, bearing a very scary resemblance to Game 1. The question on everyone's lips was whether or not Game TV could close the game out, or would SMG stage yet another comeback. Hanzo was a terror in Game 1 on Joker, and SMG knew they had to play around him if they wanted to take the series to 2-0. Fortunately for Game TV, Liang stepped a little too far forward on Zill, gifting Game TV an easy kill. Whether their patience had been rewarded or whether it was a gift from Liang, Game TV managed to bring the series to 1-1. At this stage in the finals, it was really hard to see why SMG was seen as the favourites to win. If anything, you'd give that title to Game TV. They controlled both games and only lost the first because of a silly late game mistake. Well, SMG were about to show us why they 100% deserve the top spot and the $200,000 prize. Game 3 was completely different to Game 1 and 2. SMG returned to the form they'd shown in the group stages, destroying Game TV in the early game and out-rotating them at every single turn. The game was settled by 2 decisive teamfights, in which SMG outnumbered and outdamaged Game TV by a large margin. These 2 fights alone created enough pressure for SMG to open up a 10,000 gold lead, more than enough to take the series to 2-1, as Game TV were left helpless against their onslaught. Heading into Game 4, you'd think SMG had found their groove and were on course for an easy 3-1 scoreline. Game TV weren't down and out yet, however, as they showed they still had teeth even when behind. Although SMG had a small advantage throughout, Game TV were good at holding their own. To break the deadlock, SMG tried something different by going for a backdoor when Game TV were occupied near the Darkslayer. The 2 players trying to pull it off couldn't ignore Bishan on Violet, as he danced around them, melting the aggressors and giving his team some breathing room. Unfortunately, they lost 3 members in the fight they took near the Dark Slayer due to Bishan having to defend, meaning it was a tough job for him and PS Man to hold out. Against 3 waves of super minions and 4 attackers, Game TV were rendered helpless and SMG took the series to match point. It was do or die time for Game TV heading into Game 5. It looked so good all series long and everyone knew they had the capability to take games from SMG, they were just lacking that final spark to actually convert their advantages into game wins. Sadly, there was no fairy tale comeback for Game TV in Game 5 as they got a taste of their own medicine from Game 1. Bishan went too deep and got caught out of position. And with a major damage dealer now off the table, SMG felt confident taking the decisive 5v4 that would leave just PS Man to defend by himself. After what happened in Game 4, the end result was inevitable. SMG stormed into Game TV's base, brought down PS Man, and ended the game to win themselves the $200,000 prize and the title of the best Asian Arena of Valor team. All in all, it was a great weekend of games where players and teams from around the world could see what the best Asian teams were playing and what strategies ultimately prevailed. It sets the scene for 2018 nicely as we look towards the range of tournaments it's set to bring where no doubt the meta will keep evolving and players will only keep improving. That's it for the AIC in this week's episode of Spotlight Arena. We'll be back next week with a special episode covering what happened at DreamHack Winter here in Europe. Thanks for watching once again, and we'll see you next week.